Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. So grateful to be here tonight. This beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Friday evening. If you've ever, and I mean, if you've ever had a moment where you've dealt with depression, where you've dealt with struggles, where you've dealt with deep internal issues, and you're still trying to build the business, this is going to be the show for you tonight because we're actually talking about building that business while dealing with mental health. It is such an honor that to be able to stream here with you guys. And for all you guys who are watching, guess what? My name is Jim Burgoon. I am the Everyday Leader. This is the Everyday Leader Live, where we come to you each and every week. This time, same bat channel, same bat time, 5 p.m. or actually 7 p.m. every Friday evening to bring you some of the greatest and best teaching around for entrepreneurs, leaders, and things like that. So grateful. So do me a favor. Let's see if the chat works this. Oh, the chat is working this week. Look at this. Last week we had a meltdown in chat. So we're going to say, yeah, put a little music on as we jump into this. Hello, Facebook user. Now, whenever that says Facebook user, let's go ahead and make sure that we say who you are because I love talking with you guys. I just want to know who you guys are. Welcome, Jessica, to the show. So good to see you. So good to see you. We're talking about something really, really crazy today. We're talking about mental health. That is something that's not really talked about a lot. Matter of fact, let's start with this for your questions, guys. I got a question for you. How do you focus on your mental health? How do you focus on it? Like, what do you do? Like, maybe you're an entrepreneur. Maybe you're a business owner looking to get into an entrepreneurial space, like build a business. How do you deal with your mental health? Throw that in the chats. Throw that in the chats because I want to hear what's going on with you guys, and I want to hear from each and every one of you guys because you matter. Right? We say that every time at every show. You matter every single week. Want to shout out to my brother Freddie. What's up, man? And other Facebook users says, I'm very tired and sleep, but I will be okay. You know what? You will be fine. Life is good. So today's time show is I think I did an accident. I shut something off I shouldn't have. So let's turn this on and then we're going to start jumping right in. So as I said before, how do you deal with your mental health? How do you deal with your mental health? Here we go. Sharing this. We're going to hide this. You got to love it. Technology is what it is. And if you guys can see that, let me know in the chats because I love it when you guys talk back and forth with me. So, because sometimes these things don't show up and I'm like doing the thing and on my screen, I'm like, yo, this is so cool. And my wife's like, it didn't show up half the time. So let me know if you see these things. And if you don't, would love to know that as well. So let's just jump into this. Most of my audience, most of you guys are entrepreneurial in some way. Matter of fact, whether you're a business owner or you're in a job, a 9 to 5, and you're looking to start a business because you want to get out of your 9 to 5 and work for yourself. I is one of those. I am an entrepreneur by heart. I've been starting entrepreneur since I was 6 years old. I was building businesses and things. And I've been doing things like that through most of my life. Now I've taken it seriously. I'm trying to lead that 9 to 5, trying to do the whole thing and be permanently 100% entrepreneurial because I don't like working for people. I don't like working for people. Do you like working for people? I sure don't. But here's the thing. In entrepreneurship, like when you're an entrepreneur, there are a lot of things they don't talk about. They don't talk about how hard this is. They don't talk about the long hours. They don't talk about you sitting there typing things out and doing this and showing up on shows and building platforms and getting out there and trying to tweak your offer and all these things. They don't even talk about that stuff, right? They just say, hey, all the greatness of being an entrepreneur. They show you their Lambo. They show you this, but they don't talk about all the extra stuff behind it. It's as if entrepreneurship is supposed to be gushy little rainbows and nothing is really talked about, right? But there's a dark side to entrepreneurship that I want to talk about today. There's a side of entrepreneurship that I want to hit up, and it's in the side where we don't even, if we don't talk about the fact of the negative side of being an entrepreneur, we talk about mental health in entrepreneurship, even less than anything else. We talk about mental health even less. And I want to bridge this concept. I want to bridge this conversation because I think it's probably one of the most important conversations that you and I are going to have. It's one of the most important conversations you should be having with yourself is where is my mental health? Where am I at in my mental health journey? And especially, guys, with what's happening in the world, with everything being told social distance and doing this and doing that, it even gets more challenging in your mental health. And some of the stats I'm going to show you tonight is stats pre-pandemic. So I can't even imagine what, once they start doing all the stats for the pandemic, what's that going to look like? But I do want to tell you guys, there is a difference. There's a big difference between mental health and mental illness. There's a big difference. And I want you to hear this, right? 100% of people need to be focusing on their mental health. 100%. But not everybody has mental illness. And I want to, and something else on top of that, mental illness should not be stigmatized. You know, stigma is about pushing to the side and not talking about it and acting like it's no longer existent. Mental illness is here to stay. And if you really think about it, some of these stats here, this is, like I said, pre-pandemic, but 1 out of every 5 people suffer from mental illness. 1 out of every 5. So like when you walk down the street, and this may be you, this may be a spouse, this may be somebody in your life, who knows, but 1 out of every 5 people suffer from mental illness. And that's, you know, depression, borderline, bipolar, anxiety, ADHD, and the list goes on and on. But 1 out of every 5 people have to navigate this. And I'm going to tell you the number is even greater when you navigate it, when you're a spouse, when you're a husband, when you're a wife who's married to somebody who has this. Because I want to bring this forth. Listen, you leader, entrepreneur, if you are somebody who's dealing with the mental illness, we'll get into that today. But maybe you're somebody like my situation, and my wife and I are pretty open and honest about this, is that maybe you're somebody who is like, let's pull this one up. Maybe you're somebody who has mental illness in your family. Like my wife is diagnosed with multiple mental illnesses. And we navigate this. And we've been together for 20 years, guys. 20 years. We've beaten statistic after statistic after statistic. We've navigated hospitals. We've navigated medicines. We've navigated all of that. And she is probably at the most stable I have seen her in our 20 years. And it's a praise God moment. But I want to tell you, building a life, building a business when you're dealing with mental illness is very, very difficult. It's not for the faint of heart. So if you're not focusing on your mental health, especially if you have a mental illness, if you're not focusing on mental health, where are you going to end up? And in reality of it, guys, if we think about this, they really get to this place. Now, I'm going to mess this up a little. Oh, that's good. Does that look good to you? I'm still getting used to all the buttons. So let me know, make sure you see that on the screen. But listen to this. If 1 out of every 5 people deal with mental illness, 1 out of every 3 entrepreneurs deal with depression. So of all the entrepreneurs out there, 1 out of every 3 of y'all deal with depression. And how do you deal with that depression? How do you deal with going into doing the business that takes a lot of stress, a lot of challenges, a lot of throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks, right? I think that's really what we do, is we're like, boom, did this work? Boom, did this work? And half the time, it's game over. And I'm going to tell you, I got new sounds, guys. We're going to be excited. Hear that? It's like the Mario game over. Listen, we'll play it one more time. I hope you heard it. Oh my gosh, right? So the idea is that, like, listen, if you're not taking care of your mental health, it's game over. It's because you, my friend, nobody's going to take care of your mental health but you. And over 800,000 people a year, this was pre-pandemic numbers, over 800,000 people a year commit suicide. Can you imagine the amount of attempts that is on top of that? It's in the top 10 for most deadliest things on the planet. That's why I want to bridge this conversation, guys, and really get into this whole conversation about steps towards building your mental health. And as I asked before earlier, guys, let me do this. We're going to go boop. Oh, look at this. I'm getting to be a pro at this stuff. We're excited about being able to hit the buttons. So excited. So excited. See, the crowd is cheering for me. But here's the deal. So as I asked earlier, I was wondering, nope, that's not the right one. I was wondering, how do you deal with mental health? Because I'm going to give you 5 ways. And you know what? I didn't even number them today. Usually I number them, but I didn't today because the order doesn't matter. It matters that you're doing something, right? And let's take a look, see what some people got right here. Let's say hello, and then we're going to jump into the first one. Hey, Natalie, good to see you. Good to see you always, my friend. And hey, my buddy over at Productivity Ace, make sure other people know that I need their help in observing any warning signs they won't be observing to me, obvious to me. Hey, listen, that's called blind spots. I love that. And I love how you do that, my friend. Alan, good to see you on the show. I just did a live with Alan for his show, and it was beautiful. You can see it on my Facebook profile. But here's what he says: building any relationship of value isn't for the faint-hearted, even without mental illness. You ain't kidding, my friend. And I love Alan. He's the love engineer. That's his tag, man. I'm the everyday leader. He's the love engineer. And then we got the productivity ace, man. We building something here, aren't we? So here's my buddy at Productivity. He says, critical that leaders are constantly monitoring the vibe of their employees, look out for changes, and could indicate a potential issue. Yeah, listen, it's one of those things that says if you see something, say something, but you need to be able to get into a place where you see something, right? So be aware. I love that. My Facebook user over there, she says, I have anxiety, man. That is a tough thing to have. My wife does have anxiety. I know a lot of people that have anxiety, high functioning anxiety, some people. We could talk about some of that because I think some of these tips will help you. What to do to take off. I can't say today. I can't talk, right? What to do to take off it, right? We're gonna deal with that tonight. Not specifically maybe that, but we're gonna deal some things with that. I normally sleep. That's how I deal with it. Hey, listen, that's okay too. We got the sounds like, thanks, bro. Loved it. Yep, we had a great time. Last person, and then we're gonna head on into the content. We have to dance, enjoy life using music, and help others, especially Rwanda orphans. That made me feel that my life mattered. Yeah, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Now we're gonna jump into this whole thing. Let's do this thing. We're back up to the steps towards greater mental health. Now, I do want you to make sure that you do see these slides, so please make sure you let me know if you do see them. So let's jump this in. The first thing I'm going to talk about is ask for help. Guys, you got to ask for help. Listen, so often we don't do this. And I don't know if it's entrepreneurial like pride. I don't know if it's just pride in people, if it's an ego thing. I don't know what that is, but we struggle with asking for help. Like, it's like somehow like asking for help is the kryptonite to Superman. Like somehow it's like if I see it, if I need help, no, I'm gonna die because it shows weakness. Don't die. No, you don't do that. You got to ask for help. I think that's the most important of many of these things, because if you don't ask, nobody knows, right? Why do you think we have people who say, I want to kill myself, or they start talking about suicide? Usually when people start talking about it, it's a warning sign to say, I need help. So what if we took this place of destigmatizing this and say, hey, I'm struggling. Let me reach out to my network of people I trust. Listen, that's even one other thing, guys. If you don't have anybody you trust, it's time to start finding somebody you trust. Because if you're building your mental health and you want to ask for help and you don't know anybody to ask, that's a problem. That's a problem, guys. And I can't stress that enough, because look at this, because fear stops health. Fear stops health. And when you think about this, you really get to a place that if you're too afraid to ask for help, your mental health is going to suffer. If you're too afraid to ask for help, then what comes into this whole conversation is you feel like your pride or your ego is too big and you don't want to look weak, that you'd rather deal with it alone. You are not an island. You are not a person who is going to be in this place that says, I can do it all by myself. That's it. I'm good. Because those people are the people who end up falling apart. They're the people who end up failing. They're the people who end up getting to a place where there's no return. And we don't want that for you. We don't want you to get to a place of no return. We want you to get into a place of health, right? And to do that, you've got to start asking for help. You've got to start asking for help. There is no in between of this. There is no around this. Eat the crow, man. Get into a place where you're just like, you know what? I'm going to start being brave. Are you brave? Are you somebody who's like, man, I'm strong? The strong ask for help. The weak do not. Let's just say it that way. The strong ask for help, but the weak do not. And it's just one of those things, guys. And so let me do this. I'm gonna throw this up as we go into the next point. What you think, guys? Do you ask for help? Do you struggle with asking for help? And I'm gonna throw out the I love this little inlay thing, and I think I lost it. Okay, well, we lost it anyway. But here's the deal. Let's come up to this thing, and we're gonna say, boom. You ever get those places where you just lose your thought? Well, here we are. Some teachers, used to punish kids when asking for help, or other kids bully for it. That creates deep wounds they don't often forget. You know what? That is so incredibly important to really understand. I was really bullied in like fourth, fifth grade. Matter of fact, I was bullied through a lot of my youth. I was really heavy set and at one point, and I just got really bullied for it. There was 2 points where I really contemplated committing suicide, right? Because I was so bullied. And it was not just one, it was groups of people. And that stayed with me for a long time. And I got into this place where I struggled with asking for help. So Alan, your statement is so true. But there comes a point, listen, here's the deal. There comes a point when you've got to get into the place to where you say, is my past going to be what controls me? Or do my decisions what determine my future? Which one is it? Is it your past or your future or your current decisions? And then you get into this place where you're like, hey, I know that what happened sucked. Like, you have to do this inside yourself. Like, I can't sit here and tell you guys who are watching and say, if you had like rough past, and I think we all have, if you had a rough past, get over it. Nobody says that. Like, you can't just get over things, right? And when you get to a place, you understand that, like, I'm not going to just get over it, but I can also get to a place where it doesn't control me. And I think that's what we really need to move to, not get to this place of I'm so stoic, I don't feel anything, like the Terminator, I feel nothing. No, you get to this place to where you get into this thing where you're like, hey, I know this happened. I know this is a reality. And I know it created problems. But the reality of it today is I get to choose my today. Is there going to be cognitive dissonance and all that other stuff? Yes, there's going to be problems. There's going to be struggles. But I get to choose today what's going to happen. Now, I get to choose whether I'm going to live in the past or I'm going to choose to live in today. And I'm going to choose today. But I'm going to also tell you, here's the deal. This is the part where we were just talking about asking for help. This is the part where you're going to need to ask for help because you can't do it alone. And you can either get help through the professional means, or you can get help through friends, or you get help through hiring a coach. Any one of those are fairly valid. Or you can go to the church and get help there. All of those are valid. But here's the deal. Leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners, you guys need to start asking for help. Your mental health is so important for that. So let's see what it says. We don't ask for help because it looks bad. I agree. A lot of people feel like it looks bad. And you get to this place where you just like, what's going to be the thing? Do I want to really look bad, or do I want to really actually get help? I mean, that's the questions you got to ask. And we raise believing that to be powerful, not weak. Well, that's, I know we're breaking this down as I go through this. Oh my gosh. Define powerful. Did somebody who was broken define powerful for you? Listen to that. Who defined the word powerful for you? Was it someone who had issues and who was broken and said, this is what powerful looks like? Because if it was someone who was broken and you're sitting there like, this person is what defined my powerful, and they're so broken that they don't know what powerful is, you're already living in a misconception. So we got to say, how do we define powerful? What does that look like for you? Matter of fact, put that in the comments. What does powerful look like for you? What does it mean to own your own power? And guys, keep these coming in because I love these comments, and I'll stay on the questions and comments as long as I can. But here, what does it look like to be powerful for you? And I, I'll even take a step further. For me, I'm a Bible guy. You guys know that. And we may not agree, and that's okay. But I define powerful through Scripture because I believe that's a truth that is immutable, unchangeable, and that's what I allow to define me. But what defines you? So I like to hear that. So Michelle, welcome to the show, Michelle. I'm so grateful to see that. You know what I need? I need to get one of those little things that allows you to call in. I think that would be so cool. The psychiatrist community is often overwhelmed, and sometimes people fall through the cracks. Absolutely 100%. Often it is imperative to make noise so you are seen. Oh my gosh. Yes, 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 yes. And you know what? We're going to give you a round of applause for that. And we're going to, because I love what you just said, because you're right. So many people fall through the cracks, and so many people get into a place where they're just not heard or seen. And I want you to get to a place where you are. The mental health realm is overwhelmed. I've been in this realm for 20 years. Now, I'm not a mental health counselor. I'm not going to give you mental health advice, right? Like where it says, if like doctoral medical advice, I'm not going to give that to you. But what I'll give you is coaching from someone who's been in the mental health field, whether it be with my wife for 20 years, being a teacher, those things. I can give you some tips and strategies on that, but understand that I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to diagnose nor talk about medicines, but there are things that we can do. Like number one was ask for help, right? And so that's imperative. Yeah, you got to get out there and make some noise. So we get here. Alan says, I have no issues reaching out for help. And as I know how tough it can be, otherwise, no, they can reach out to me. Hey, listen, you can reach out to Alan. There's a great thing. I'm going to talk one or two more people. As a leader, I'm constantly speaking about mental health with my team. Yeah, keep doing it. And I've made it clear that if it is their duty to look out for each other. Yeah, 100%. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And last one, if you can get that call in thing, it would be great to do another joint call. It would. I would love that. Hey, listen, I could bring people online with me. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about having a call up where you could just call into the show and ask questions. I love that. But I can actually bring people. I can send a link and bring people on anytime I want. So, all right, let's go to number 2. Let's do this. Uh-oh. Did I lose you guys? I lost you guys because I hit the wrong button again. Don't you hate when you hit buttons? It's like if things die. And it's just so crazy. All right, let me pull it back up because we're going into number 2. And I didn't name these things because I don't want to name them. I don't think you should name them, or not name them, but number them. Because if you number them, then they'll be so out of order. But I do number a lot of my things, but not today. But here we go. Are we ready for this? All right, here we go. All right. Let me know that. Make sure that you can see these screens for me because I would appreciate that. Because I do tend to click off of them where you can't see them. So here's the thing. We're a little bit further than that. Oh, dooms. That's what happens when you shut it off. Good. All right, give yourself grace. The second thing here, you got to give yourself grace. How many of you guys really struggle with yourself? Like you feel like you need to be perfect all the time. And you're like, man, I need to be perfect. And when you're not perfect, you beat yourself up all the time. Like you're like, I just wasn't perfect and this is all happening. And it's like a downhill spiral. What would it look like if you forgave yourself? What would it look like if you actually got into a place where you offered yourself forgiveness? Like really got to that place and you were giving yourself forgiveness, guys. Like you said, I forgive me. Because the key to grace is continually forgiveness is key. Like continual forgiveness is key. Like it's one thing when I forgive others, but it's another thing when I forgive me. And I think we miss that opportunity because we're okay with giving forgiveness to others. And sometimes we think forgiveness is just say, hey, yeah, no problem. That's not forgiveness. Now, I'm going to tell you how I define forgiveness. And this may be different than what every way you define forgiveness. But forgiveness is I forgive myself of the debt I think I owe. And that's how I define that for otherwise. I forgive you of the debt I think you owe me. You know, like when people walk out of your life. When I was a kid, my dad walked out of my life. I spent 20 years without him, right? And I'm okay with that because that's what he chose. But there was a lot of harboring of anger and bitterness and resentment. And then I asked the question, I said, this is about 5, 6, maybe 10 years ago. I asked the question, I said, what does he really owe me? And I said, he doesn't owe me a thing. He chose not to be with me. He chose not to be a father. He chose all these things. So what does he really owe me? He doesn't owe me a thing. And you know what? It was right at that moment where I was able to say, I forgive. Because guess what? When you don't forgive, you're saying the other person has the has the ability to emotionally hold you hostage. Because you're the one not sleeping at night. They're not it. They're up and they're fine. They're sleeping good. And you're like angry and bitter and, you just want to hurt somebody. And you can't sleep because your lack of forgiveness, they don't care. The ones that hurt you probably may not even be aware. And if they are aware, they're not caring. And so you've got to get into this place where you say, I forgive me. I forgive me. I got to get into this place where it's this push and pull. I forgive you. I forgive me because I release myself from a debt I think I owe me. I release myself from a debt I think you owe me. Right? Maybe it's affirmations. Maybe it's a thank you. Maybe it's $20. Maybe it's $100, whatever. Forgiveness starts when you say, you don't owe me anything. And some of you guys are like, I'm probably freaking out. Like, I don't know if that's possible. Yes, it is. Because forgiveness has nothing to do with them and everything to do with you. And until you learn to forgive, you're going to spiral down. Every time something happens, you're going to keep spiraling. And you're going to be like, why am I so imperfect? Why doesn't this? And why isn't this? And what happens is because you're holding on to so much, you're putting more in and your container's becoming too enclosed. You can't hold it anymore. You ever have a bottle of anything, pick your favorite drink, Coke, Pepsi, whatever it is, and you just keep shaking it and eventually it explodes. You didn't even open the cap, it just go pop. It is because the internal pressure was too great for the container that held it. And there's going to come a point where you hold unforgiveness for so long that you are the container and your container is going to blow up. Your container is just going to pop and you're not going to be able to do it. And as an entrepreneur, you're dealing with stress. You're dealing with people who aren't going to pay you. You're going to deal with things that are going to fail, offers that just go fall flat. Like you're just like, hey, I've had like dozens where I'm doing this thing and I'm thinking everything should be great. And you're like, and everybody's like, no, it wasn't that great. Right. And I'm like, no, it should be. And nobody shows up. Right. You're going to deal with these things, but how you offer forgiveness is going to be how you receive them. Like if these things come in, you can sit there and be learning experiences instead of more something more to add to the unforgiveness and the bitterness. You can get bitter or you can get better, but you can't get both, right? And so with that in mind, when you're talking about all this stuff, you and I have to come to this conclusion, this understanding that says I'm going to be better, and it starts with forgiveness. End of story. So let's look at some of the comments. Forgiveness is higher law than karma. It really all depends on what you believe. I will say it is a higher law in general. As a biblical Christian, I know we don't agree on some of this, but I like what you just said there, because forgiveness is like the highest of standards. Like you can't love somebody unless you forgive them. And whatever your belief system is going to be attached to the way you think about forgiveness. From a Christian perspective, the greatest forgiveness was at the cross. And so Jesus forgave all of us. So why can't we forgive ourselves and others around us? And I know in your system with the karmic system, it's about doing good and doing bad and how that comes back, and forgiveness being above that. I think, I see the concept there, but I agree with you. Like forgiveness should, whatever system you're following, should be the highest priority of whatever faith system you're following. Forgiveness should be priority number one, because you can't love without forgiveness. Like it can't be in the same sentence. Like you can't say, I love you, but I don't forgive you. That doesn't work. You can't, that's like, it doesn't go together. It's like oil and water. It's like, I love you so I can forgive you, right? Think about that for a second. I love you so I can forgive you. Now, if you're in a place where somebody did you really wrong or somebody's abusive, listen, leave, walk out the door, don't come back. You don't deserve to be abused. That should never happen to any single person, but you can forgive them and never let them back in your life. I think that's an important distinction that you and I need to hear. You can forgive somebody and never let them back in your life. Okay. You don't have to open that door, but you have to forgive them, because if you don't forgive them, it rules your life. That's the big thing. I like what Marie says. She said, forgiveness is the greatest gift you can give to yourself and to others. I love that. That's absolutely true. Here's this one. Here's the deal. People who steal your money. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to say that because a lot of people steal a lot of things. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're in any type of space, or even in the I work a job trying to get out of working a job space, that thing. Listen, you're going to have people who steal your ideas. You're going to have people who get out there and steal your offers and just mimic you and copy you. And you're going to have people who steal your identity, and they're going to steal your money, and they're going to try to steal your clients and all this other stuff. Listen, it's going to happen. I'm telling you right now, it's going to happen. But the difference is how you respond to it is what's important. That's what's really important. It's not that it happens, it's how you respond to it. Now, there's going to be stuff that you do that's copyrighted and you're going to go after them. Do it. But always offer forgiveness in the midst of, never withhold forgiveness from anyone, but you don't need to let them into your circle if you forgive them. Big distinction. Distinction. How we doing so far, guys? Let me know in the comments. How are you doing so far? And we're going to go into the next one, and then I'll get back to the comments. So let's do this. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, yeah, we're already at the next one. Hey, listen, I'm already ahead of myself. Isn't it great? We love this. And I love having you guys. I love having you here with me on these Friday evenings. It's some of my favorite parts of the week. So here's the thing. Learn your patterns. I want you to learn your patterns, right? Because here's the deal. Human beings have patterns, right? If you're dealing with mental illness, if you're dealing with mental health, 100% of people need mental health. Only a small portion of people have mental illness. Know the difference, but you have patterns. 100% of people have patterns, right? And like, if I was to show you the checkerboard, you can say, well, hey, that could be for chess. That could be for a finish line. That could be a lot of different things. If I was to show you the stripes of a zebra, you would know what that looks like. People have the same patterns. We teach this in dispersonality. We teach this in personality typing. Everybody has patterns. And the key, though, is understanding your patterns so that you can understand other people's patterns. Because if you're not tuned into your patterns, you're not going to know your highs and lows. You're not going to know how you operate in certain things. You're not going to know that in this situation that this thing is going to happen. In this place, I'm going to do this. Or if like something good happens, I'm going to respond this way. If something bad happens, I'm going to respond this way. Know your patterns, because when you know your patterns, you know your ebbs and flows, and you can start to navigate this. I don't care if you are somebody who has mental illness. I don't care if somebody just focusing on mental health. It applies to both of them. Now, I do care. Hear what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is it applies to both of them, because when it applies to both of them, it understands that you have a pattern of behavior that is causing you to stay in your current state, or if you change the behavior, it can cause you to go to a higher state, right? But so many people live in their state because they know not their patterns. And like, if you know that when somebody gets uppity and says like you're fat, right? And you know that you're going to take the earrings off and you're going to flip out and you're just going to go to jail, right? You just like, yo, this is coming off. We're done. And you're going to throw hands. Then you know that you need to work in coping mechanisms to say when somebody says something offensive, then we will not go after this, right? You know your patterns, right? And I think that the more that you know your patterns, the better you know your patterns, the better you'll do your ebbs and flows. So you know your energy levels. So when you're high, you do the things that you can do when your energy is high. When you're low, you do the things that you know to do when you're low. Let me give you an example. Is when you're on the high energy side, if you're somebody who deals with depression, if you're an entrepreneur who's like up and down with depression, or just somebody in life that's dealing with that, when you're on your highs and you're not as depressed, go out for walks, go clean the house, do the things you always wanted to do when you're depressed, do them when you're on your emotional highs. When you're on your emotional lows, rest. Give yourself the permission, give yourself grace to rest and understand that your body needs it, right? And then understand what triggers those things. Like, what are the things in your life that send you deeper in depression? What are the things in your life that pushes you out of depression? What are the things in your life that you know if you do these three things that your life will completely change? What are the things that you know if you do these three things that you will stay the same? Find your pattern and begin to operate in it, guys. If you're not operating in your patterns, then you're missing out on the next stage of your evolution. You're missing out on the next stage of your success because you don't know who you are. You don't know your strengths and you don't know your weaknesses. It's time to change that, guys. It's time to get into a place where you understand who you are, how God designed you, how you were made, so that you understand how you operate with the world, how things happen when they come at you, and you know what to do. That's the biggest thing, is can you figure out what to do before it happens, so when it happens, you can do the thing that you figured out what to do. That's the big thing, right? Let's look at some of you guys and see what you guys are saying. Michelle says sometimes people are so busy blaming people for their hurts that they don't realize how much they need to forgive themselves. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Like, let's stop chasing, what are they called? Witch hunts. And let's get to a place where we're actually being mature adults, building the businesses with integrity, building lives with integrity, and stop blaming others for the problem. Take personal responsibility. I love that. And this actually, I love what Ace is saying, because this is actually going to lead in the last two. It says here, never beat yourself up about any of your own mistakes. Love that. Oh my gosh, love that. Mistakes are not problems. They're learning experiences. If you listen, guys, reframe your challenges. Any challenge you come up, reframe it. Because if you can reframe it to it was a learning experience as opposed to mistake, how would that change your thoughts, right? How would that change everything? Because we're gonna that was an explosion, right? Some minds are blowing up right now, right? Some minds right now are just exploding. I like my sounds, by the way. Some minds are just exploding. It's like, that is the minds of the people who are watching. I'm hearing it right now. Boom, boom, boom. Because if you just reframe it and from a mistake to a learning experience, and you understand that you're not going to be at a place where you need to forgive or give grace, because you know that everything you do is about learning and going to the next stage and growing from here. Learning experiences are growth experiences. Growth experiences are what gets you to the place of success. That's where it comes in. Take the rap for your mess ups and then move on and make a better decision. I love that. I love that. Love that. Love, 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 love it. Next one. And we're coming down to the last two here. And I want to tell you guys, thanks for hanging out. Remember, ask your questions, guys. Let's get this. Let's question. I know you guys are great, saying some incredible things, but if you have any questions, any specific questions, shoot them in the comments. Let's talk about this. So here's the other thing. I'm going to tell you, this one is probably the worst offender. If you're a driven individual, if you're a entrepreneur who's like, I got to get this done, got to move. If you're, I mean, even like moms and dads who are at home, or if you're working a job and you're like, got to get this done, got A plus B plus C plus D plus blah, 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 and you keep going and you don't give yourself time to rest. I'm going to tell you something very important about this. If you're somebody who's like, I just don't have time, I don't have time for rest, job has to be done. Yeah, you know what? The job does have to be done, but you don't have to do it all right now, because either you will learn to rest or your body will make you rest. There is no in and out of this, guys. When you're dealing with your mental health, either you're going to learn to rest or your body will force you to rest. There is no in betweens. And what do I mean by that? Either you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to rest. It's okay. We're going to give myself permission. Or you're going to end up in the hospital burnt out trying to figure out how you got there. But I took all the steps. No, you didn't. You didn't rest. You didn't take the time. You didn't shut down for the evening. You know, there comes a time in the night. Like, I'm somebody who can work 16 hours a day with no problem. Like, if I get into something, I'm like, dude, this is amazing. If I hate it, I can only work like an hour and then I'm goofing off the other 23. But like, if I get into something, like seriously get into it, I know it's going to be something for you that's going to impact you. I could do like 24 hours easily. Like, I boom, 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 because I'll forget to sleep. I'll forget to eat. But I started teaching myself that somewhere around 8, 9 o'clock, I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to watch some TV. I'm going to play some video games. I try to do this. Not always successful, but I try. And the deal is that I'm working on getting more success in resting in my life. Because do you ever hear that story of the axe? Like, there's two people and they're in a competition on who can chop down the most wood, and they're chopping down the most wood, like boom, 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 right? And as they're chopping down the wood, and oh, there you go. As they're chopping down the wood, the one guy looks over and he notices the guy, he's sitting there and he's just resting, right? And he's like, I got him. So he starts chopping more and more. He's chopping, chop, 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 right? So he's chopping the wood down. And then as he's chopping the wood down, they're all done for the day. And they measure the wood stacks. These are big lumberjacks. They're high wood stacks, right? I realize that I'm off screen. You can't see my hands moving. I talk with my hands. You talk with your hands? I talk with my hands. And you're sitting there and you're like, dude, they're like all of these stack up there. And the two measured them. And the one that looked like they were resting won. And the other guy couldn't believe it. He was like, dude, how did you win? I never stopped. I never stopped cutting. I never stopped my axe. I kept cutting. Go, go, go. And he says, the other guy who won said, what you didn't realize is that while I was resting, I was sharpening my axe. So if you're not giving yourself time to rest, then guess what, guys? You're not sharpening your axe. So you're playing the game with a dull axe. So how do you think you're going to win this game when you can't sharpen your axe? If you're playing with a dull axe, you're going to you'll get some gains, you'll get a little far, but you'll end up not getting as far as you should be because you're not resting. Your body needs rest to function. If you're going to be a coach, leader, speaker, whatever you are, whatever business it is, e-com, I don't care what it is that if you don't rest, you're not going to be a high performing person in that field. And the more you do, the more you need rest. It's like 2 for 1. It's like for every solid hour that you put in, you need to take a break and you need to rest. Go for a walk. Remember what the sun looks like? Does anybody remember what the sun looks like? You need to go out and take that walk. It's okay, because when you come back, you'll be more mentally fit. You'll be able to see. You'll be able to. You removed yourself from the situation, and you came back to a place where your axe is sharpened, even for a few minutes. Your axe is sharpened, and you can do more with what you have than what you did previously had. So if you don't take time to rest, your body will force you to rest. You're either going to do it on your own or you're going to be burnt out. Those are your decisions. Those are your problems, guys. So that's what it comes down to. And I know, and that's the one I wanted. She said, I need rest now. So much to do. You know what? Prioritize, right? That's another thing you can do. This is kind of like a bonus round, right? Prioritize. Big rocks first, it's called. What are your most important things that you have to do first? Like, these are the rocks that move everything else. In leadership, we call it the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle. 20% of the work that accomplishes 80% of the results. So what is your 20% that you can do right now that says, hey, listen, I'm worried about my mental health. I'm worried about all this, but I do know there's a lot of work. What is your 20%? So when that looks like, it's saying, okay, if I do this, maybe you had, I'll give it a number. Maybe you had 10 things. If I do this one thing and this second thing, it'll move the needle on all the other 8. So pick those things first and then everything else will start moving naturally. But also in times, if there are massive, massive things in front of you, take time and build in rest. So if you say this is a 2-day job where it's like 8 hours a day for 2 days, well, you're going to extend the hours a little bit because you're going to move into it and say, I'm going to take an hour here to just rest. I'm going to take an hour here to rest, or 30 minutes or whatever you need to rest, because the more you're able to do that, the better you'll do. And actually the faster you'll finish. So Michelle says this: heart attacks, strokes, and even some cancers can caused by high stress, ulcers, bowel problems, headaches, and more. Yes, 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 yes. I think my mom's watching this. My mom is probably one of the hardest workers I've ever met in my life. She supported 3 kids, single mom. Been through a lot in her own life. And on around my birthday last 2 years ago, I think it was, maybe, yeah, I think about a year or two ago, she had a major stroke. Right, it just came to a place where stress and everything else, just she had a stroke. And you think about that, man, and for me, it was like one of the worst case scenarios of my life, because I love my mom, right? And I'm gonna get all the messages here soon when she's gonna text me. It's like, so we put the hearts up there. We love you. And so the deal is one of the worst case scenarios in my life, because I don't know about you, but I need my mom. And so with that being said, a lifetime of working so hard with little rest and not taking care of yourself, like physically, and things like that, just added up to the body. Was like, okay, well, you're done. That's it. And this is prone to all of us. You're done. And like Michelle is saying, heart attacks, strokes, and cancers, all of that, they're like, you're done. And I don't want you to be done, right? Wherever you are in life, wherever you are in business, and with your family, with your business, with your life, whatever that is, don't be done. Don't be done before your time. Build in a time of what rest looks like. Now, I can't tell you what rest looks like to you. I can only tell you what it looks like to me. And with that being said, you have to understand, and we talked about patterns, understand your flows, your ebbs, your all those things. Because here's the deal. You know what rest is for you. Nobody can tell you that. I want you to go do it, right? I want you to go do the thing, right? That's the deal. I want you to get permission. You hear it from me now. You have permission to go rest. You have permission. Do it. Don't work yourself so hard. At the end of the day, the bills are still going to be there. At the end of the day, things are going to still be left undone. You do not have to accomplish everything in one sitting. Okay. But let me say this. There's a book I read. It was probably one of the most life-changing books I've ever had, I've ever read in my life. And what it really was, it was called Choosing the Cheat, right? And now, before all you go in there is like, oh, y'all, please talk about cheating. No, it's not that cheating. But here's the deal. It was called Choosing the Cheat, and it was written by a guy named Andy Stanley. He's a pastor of like a 50, 30, 40,000 member church, somewhere up in there. When you get that big, you just kind of lose track of numbers. And he wrote this book, and he said this. He said the whole premise of the book was, you only get 24 hours in the day. To accomplish everything, you're going to have to cheat someone. You just got to prioritize who you cheat. That's why it's called Choosing to Cheat, which means at school, you're going to have like school, you're going to have business, you're going to have family, you're going to have church for all you churchgoers, because I'm a churchgoer. That's my context. You're going to have all of these things, right? So the idea is you have to choose who you cheat. Is your business so important that you're going to cheat your wife in order to do that? Like if you work 20 hours a day and you see your wife 3 minutes, is that fair to your wife? Is that fair to your husband? For all you ladies who are extremely successful entrepreneurs, and we do love that about you, are you gonna choose that? You got to cheat one of them, right? Now, don't fall into the other extreme where you're so codependent that you're spending all the time with your family and you're not making money to pay for the bills. Listen, you got to still pay for the bills, right? So if you're balancing it out and saying, you know what, from 9 to 5, 9 to 6, I'm working. At the end of that, at 6 o'clock, I'm done. And at that time, this time belongs to these people. Phone goes off, things happen, because you're making the decision. You're making that decision now to rest and giving yourself permission to rest, because you're going to cheat someone. And everybody's buying for your time right now. Everybody, your ministry, your mission, your work, your job, your entrepreneurial. Listen, I've probably in the last 4 or 5 years of being an entrepreneur, like I've been entrepreneurial my whole life, but I only became an entrepreneur like in the last 3 to 5 years, where I've started businesses. I've probably started, or at least attempted, probably 40 different businesses, trying to find the one that works for me. Right. And many of them I started at the same time. Okay. I don't know about you, but I did like 4 or 5 at the same time, trying to juggle that. So can you imagine, like I was working a job, working a ministry, juggling 4 businesses. Like I was trying to get off the ground. I was blogging, I was doing this, all this stuff. And then I had my wife who was diagnosed with mental illness. And then we had our children. My goodness. Well, I didn't rest. Who needed time for rest? There was no time for rest. But again, if you do not rest, if you do not get to these places of rest, it's game over. I love my game over. I love that Mario sound. It is so game over. Look, here we go. One more time. I love it, guys. So here we go. But it's game over, right? So here's my thing to you. Give yourself permission now to rest so that you are not somebody who's caught with your body forcing you to rest, like cancer, heartache, heart attack, stroke, all of that stuff. Don't be that person. Don't be that person. Let's roll into the last one. Oh, and for my brother, guess what I got for you, my brother? Because my brother, Freddie there, he is actually my legit brother. Look, I should have did this before. Last week I said I was going to have a drum roll. This week I had a drum roll. Here's the deal. Take time to enjoy your life. I know that, take time to enjoy your life. Everything we've been talking about leads up to this, leads up to a place where you take time to enjoy your life. Listen, don't be the person who builds a life that they don't give themselves permission to actually live it. So often as an entrepreneur, we're building a dream. I want to make X amount of money to do X amount of things and do the big things and talk in front of thousands of people. And you know what? I'll get there, but I want to enjoy the journey. Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, and guess what? I love what I do. I couldn't see myself doing anything else. And there are things that are successful and there's things that's not. But I can work so much that I forget that I have a life to enjoy. Don't be 60 some years old and realize I missed the opportunities to be with my children. I missed the opportunities to be with my friends. I missed the opportunities to be in the life that I was trying to create. So often we look so far in the future that we forget there's a today. Don't be that person. Don't be the person where you're trying to be like build. Oh, I'll enjoy it when I build it. What if you don't build it in the time frame that you think? My mentor always told me, he says, it's going to take longer than you think and it's going to cost more than you hoped. And it has every single time. Don't be that person where you're trying to build this life that you don't get to enjoy. Take those times and enjoy it, guys. Take those moments and say, you know what? I give myself permission to live. I give myself permission to run outside and say, yes, I'm alive, and I run and do those things. Be that person who you are going to be enjoying that life. I was talking to my mentor, my spiritual father, and he and I were talking, and I've been chasing after things for so long in my life, like businesses and opportunities and things, and working 2 jobs and doing this and that and this, right? And I told him the other day, I said, I'm finally doing my business. I'm a speaker. I'm building a platform. I'm a coach. I coach people. I train. I get paid for all of that. And I'm actually writing and getting paid for writing as well. So here's the deal. I'm doing things I love. And he's like, and he told me this. He says, Jim, I've never heard you so happy. He's like, you sound so content. He's like, I know that you don't have the millions yet. He's like, but you're content in what you do. And he says, that's the win. He says, that's the win. It's like learning to be content is the win, guys. That's what it comes down to. Learning to be content, not always striving, but just realize that all that stuff will come. But I want that stuff coming to my life as an overflow instead of always grasping for straws. And I think that's really what it comes down to, guys. And I don't want you to be grasping for straws either. I want you to live a life to where you are actually building this thing to where you're actually giving yourself permission to rest, giving yourself permission to enjoy your life, asking for help, and all these other things that we do, because your mental health is most important. And if you're not focused on your mental health, nobody else will, guys. Nobody else will. Now, let me just end with this, and I'm going to put some music on. We want street hustle today. We're doing a little street hustle. Yeah. We're bouncing with the street hustle. So listen, guys, I got 10 minutes left of our show. I usually do an hour. But here, let me give you this. Any last questions? Let's do this first. Any last questions, comments, all those things? My name is Jim. I just want to boom, boom, boom. Yo, I don't do all that stuff, but that just sounds funny. But anyway, so like Jim at the Everyday Leader Live, I do this every single week. It's all about leadership development for leaders and entrepreneurs like you. But here's the deal. And people are like, what is leadership development? Well, let me tell you what leadership development is. Leadership is about getting you over those humps, those hurdles, those things that are holding you back to be able to achieve more, to be more, to actually live the life you were designed to live, to get into a place where you're navigating the whole realm of people at a high level. You know, that is one thing for some of you guys who struggle with people. This is that when you work with me, it's an opportunity to get better at all of that. And then and you know what? The natural progression is your influence and your impact and your income all increase because of that, right? So here's the thing. I want to give you a gift. I do show this gift most weeks, and I want to show it today. Listen. So here's the deal. So we are giving you a gift, right? Listen, I stuttered a little bit. I stumbled, but it sounded like it went with the beat. So I'm all good. So we're happy here. So here's the deal. If you go to www.leadwithjim.com, you can pick up your own copy, your free copy, free to you. It's on me. From the primary disc. This is the only primary disc resource you need. We talk about personality types. It really answers the question, who are you? Right? We talked about patterns. This is how you learn what pattern you are. If you haven't gotten it, go grab it, schedule a call. Let's have a conversation, because here's the deal. If you're struggling in any place of mental health, if you're in a place where you need somebody to talk to, give a call, right? If I'm somebody who can coach you, I will coach you. We'll talk about investment all later, but if I'm somebody who can help you with mental health, let's do it. If I'm not that person, if you need professional help, I will tell you who to go to. And we'll find a way to get you what you need, because that's really what it all comes down to, guys, because you are important. It's your mental health. It's your life. Don't be the person who is always trying to live your life at such an extreme that you don't take those times to focus on your mental health as an entrepreneur, as a life, as a father. Your kids need you. Your clients need you. Don't let your life end so early because you are not focusing on your own mental health. And that means for everybody who either has mental illness or doesn't, mental health is 100% for every bit of the several billion people in the United States, in the world, all over the place. It's mental health. Focus on it, focus on it, focus on it. Guess what? We do this every week, guys. 7:00 Friday evenings. We do this every week. If you have any comments or questions, like if you want me to do a show around something that's really itching, let me know. Well, let me know in the comments. We'll do a show around it. But also the other thing I want to tell you is that on Monday of this week, I'm letting go a video that if you're an entrepreneur who has mental health issues, this is going to be one for you that just says, how do you build a business while you're dealing with your mental health issues? So that's a video you're going to see on Monday. And so take a look at it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button on the channel over here on YouTube, because it does help me. It does push it out. And I love each and every one of you guys. And with that, we're going to get out of here. And I'm grateful for each and every person that has been here, that with me today and hangs out with me each and every week, because this is the Everyday Leader Live. This show is for you. This show is not for me. This show is for you because I believe in you. I believe in your ability to change the world. I believe in your ability to make a difference, right? So go out there, make a difference, be who God designed you to be, and live the life you were designed to live. With that being said, I will see you on the flip side.